Meet spinach. It's green, it's earthy, it looks healthy, but this rabbit food did me dirty.
For 5 years straight, I ate spinach daily, thinking it was the healthiest food for me. I wouldn't even make a salad out of it. I would just buy a bag and gag down a handful plain without dressing. And I did this because I thought that if I eat raw spinach daily, I could enjoy cookies and ice cream guilt-free. Because I thought if I eat something healthy, it cancels out eating something naughty. Yeah. Well, that's not how it works. Eating spinach didn't erase the fact that I ate processed junk food. And it turns out, spinach had a darker side to it that I never saw coming. It's high in a compound called oxalates, and while I think I could be totally fine having a little bit of oxalates, eating spinach every day in combination with other high oxalate foods destroyed my knees. They sounded like this. For the longest time, I blamed my chronic knee pain on 8 years of being a track and field hurdler and sprinter, but turns out that oxalates can also contribute to arthritic and joint pain, which totally explains why when I stopped eating processed junk food, stopped running, and continued to have my handful of spinach daily, my excessive knee pain still remained. It wasn't until I stopped the spinach that my debilitating knee pain vanished. And now granted, I'm sure a little spinach here and there is not going to be a big deal, but when I was having it in large quantities every day, it really did make my walking painful. To be clear, I am not here to try to scare people out of eating spinach. If someone's having spinach right now and it's working for them, great, rock on, I wouldn't change a thing. However, there are a lot of people who are trying to do the healthy good things. They're trying to eat spinach, almonds, and beets, all which are high in oxalates, and yet they're struggling with joint pain, stomach issues, and most importantly, kidney stones.
Kidney function becomes impaired. So around 80% of people with kidney stones, if you measure the stone composition, it's actually calcium oxalate, meaning that the majority of people who get kidney stones have a problem with oxalate.
If you've never heard of oxalates before, I made a full video covering that topic and spinach, which I just watched that video back. It was really good. And I'll link it in the video description. Also, anytime I talk about the negatives or the downsides to eating certain foods, then people take it that I think these foods are dangerous, they're unhealthy, and you should never ever eat them. And that's not the case. I just want to make sure I'm being clear on that one. I don't think if I were to have spinach once in a while, or for most people, if they were to have spinach occasionally, that it would be any, problem whatsoever. But I think that the frequency, the quantity, how much someone has daily could be problematic for some people. And that's the pattern I noticed with all 6 of the foods I'll be sharing in this video. On paper, they look healthy, but low-key, silently, they were sabotaging my health. My name's Lillie. I'm a certified nutrition health coach on a mission to help as many people possible reclaim their health through common sense nutrition that actually helps and isn't dogmatic. If that interests you, don't be silly. Subscribe to Lillie.
Food number 2, beans. Now you've probably heard the phrase, beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. And let me tell you, that was true for me. For years, I tried to be the person who ate beans regularly. I was told they're a great source of protein and amazing for heart health. And because you guys know I'm cheap, I added them to my meals thinking I was doing something great for my health. But here's the deal. I wouldn't consider beans a great source of protein, not compared to animal foods like meat, fish, eggs, or dairy. The protein in beans just isn't as bioavailable, meaning our bodies don't absorb and use it as efficiently. Plus, for me personally, when I would have lots of beans, I would have what I would call a Buddha belly, where essentially I'd just be very bloated, gassy, and look 8 months pregnant.
I was trying to force my body to digest something that clearly it wasn't loving. And again, some people may be totally fine with beans, but for me, they just left me feeling very heavy, my brain farty, and my booty tooty. Eventually, I realized I didn't need to eat beans to be healthy. I find that with animal protein, for me, it just digests so much easier, it's gentler on my system, and it doesn't make me feel like a hot air balloon walking around ready to pop.
Now let's talk about food number 3 that secretly wrecked my health, white rice.
I know it's a staple, it's easy to digest, and it's in virtually every clean eating bowl on Instagram. And for years, I thought of white rice as just a very neutral, blank canvas that I could use to add more bulk to my meals without doing much harm. And granted, sometimes I will have some white rice. Maybe a few times a year, I just really want some white rice. But I used to have it every single day, and I started paying attention and noticing that after I'd have my meal, I'd just feel more sluggish, tired, foggy, and it always made me hungrier as well in comparison to when I had meals without it. On top of that, white rice isn't exactly booming with vitamins and minerals. It's mainly just a filler food with calories, not a ton of nutrition. But here's where things get interesting. I wore a glucose biosensor and tested a bunch of different foods to see how my body responded. And out of all of the single ingredient, real whole foods that I tested, white rice spiked my glucose levels the highest. And here's why that matters. Because even if you're not diabetic, constant glucose spikes can lead to things like energy crashes, poor sleep, constant cravings, stubborn weight gain, low energy, and down the line, this can lead to more serious health issues like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even cognitive decline. Wearing a glucose biosensor was one of the most eye-opening things I've ever done for my health because it literally showed me which foods are hurting and helping my health, so I no longer had to guess anymore.
Now let's talk about food number 4 that was secretly hurting my health. Protein bars.
For years, I genuinely thought I was doing something good for my body because I was focused on that protein, and therefore I figured protein bars must be healthy, right? They're in the fitness aisle, so they gotta be good. But looking back, I was basically eating a Snickers bar dumped in protein powder. It was kind of like the girl in Mean Girls who's eating all of these weight loss bars, except as she eats them, she gains weight.
Why are you eating a Caltine bar?
I'm starving.
Man, I hate those things. Coach Carr makes us eat those when we want to move up a weight class.
What?
They make you gain weight like crazy.
Mother!
That was me. I thought I was eating clean. I didn't think I was eating junk food, but as soon as I cut out the protein bars that I was eating, I'm telling y'all, I lost weight like immediately. Now let me just make it clear that I don't think that all protein bars are terrible. I think there's a lot of actually really good, clean protein bars out there, like Equip bars, Carnivore bars, RX bars. There's a lot of really good protein bars out there nowadays that have simpler ingredients and fewer blood sugar surprises.
But overall, I find most protein bars are overpriced, overprocessed, and still kind of like a candy bar with a fitness label. Nowadays, if I'm going to have a protein bar, I flip over the ingredients label, and if I can't recognize one of the ingredients, it's a no for me. Food number 5, pasteurized and A1 dairy.
For all of my childhood, I was told I couldn't handle dairy and that I was lactose intolerant. Every time I'd have milk, yogurt, cheese, ice cream, I would have stabbing stomach pain that just, obviously hurt so bad, and I would be constipated for days. I would take different enzymes just to make it through a meal. But it turns out it wasn't all dairy that was causing those issues. It was the ultra-processed, pasteurized, conventional stuff that most people have access to in the US grocery stores, especially the dairy coming from the cows that produce the A1 beta-casein protein. When I switched to raw dairy, and specifically A2 dairy, which comes from specific breeds of cows, goats, and sheep, I'm telling you guys, it was like night and day. No more stomach pain, no bloating, no constipation, just creamy, delicious dairy that my body actually can handle and loves so much. Some people right now might think that they have a problem with dairy when really it might just be the certain processing or specific kind of dairy that they're having that's causing the issue. A1 dairy can lead to more sinus issues, acne, digestive discomfort, even joint pain, whereas A2 dairy can be just overall less inflammatory, less allergenic, and easier to digest.
And finally, food number 6 that did me dirty, peanut butter.
This one hurts a little bit because I used to love it. I'm talking spoon in the jar kind of love, where I convinced myself that peanut butter was so healthy, a good source of protein, healthy fats, energy. I would put peanut butter in my smoothies, on celery sticks, on fruit.
But here's what I didn't know back then. Peanut butter is not the protein-packed health food it's made out to be. Yes, it has some protein, but not much. Again, similar to the protein in beans, the protein in peanut butter and all plant foods isn't as bioavailable as the protein in things like beef, eggs, salmon.
And unlike animal proteins that come naturally packed with vitamin B12, zinc, iron, and other essential minerals, peanut butter is mainly just calories, and a lot of calories for very little volume, especially when I was eating it out of the jar.
But it's not just the lack of nutrition, it's also what's in most peanut butter jars that made it a problem for me. There's things like added sugar, seed oils like cottonseed oil, soybean oil. Peanuts can be high in aflatoxins, a naturally occurring mold toxin, and peanuts can be higher in lectins and other anti-nutrients that can irritate the gut for some people.
I didn't know any of that. I was just having it every day, thinking I was eating clean, and yet always felt a little bit bloated, heavy, and the scale wasn't budging. It wasn't until after I cut out peanut butter that I realized the impact it was having on me, not just from a weight perspective, but just overall how it was impacting my energy and digestion.
Now, there are some good quality peanut butters out there that are just one ingredient, peanuts and organic. So I don't think that all peanut butter in general is evil, though for me, personally, I'd rather spend my money on beef, eggs, fish, because with those foods, I'm getting way more nutrients, better quality protein, and they don't leave me reaching for more every hour.
I know the world of food can be so confusing nowadays. Everyone's got an opinion. This food's bad, this one's good, cut this food out, bring this food in, and it can just be kind of overwhelming. So I just want to be clear that everything in this video is just what's worked for me. It's just my experience. I think I did a lot of these foods in too large of quantities too often. You don't have to fear these foods. My goal isn't to make you afraid. It's just to keep us curious and thinking, because that's what's helped me, is just paying attention, staying open, and willing to change when something isn't working. If you missed my spinach video, I'll link it right here, and I'll also put it in the description. I hope you have a happy day, and I'll see you soon.